There are many ways to visualize data in Canvas. In this example, we'll take a look at just a few of them: heat maps, statistics, and charts. Heat maps are essentially a way to apply conditional coloring to the contents of a Canvas view. In this example, I've hidden the 2D structures to make it a bit more clear what's going on. To apply a heat map, we begin by choosing Heat Map under the Data menu. This brings up an interface that really gives us a fine-grained level of control over how the color scheme will be applied. Setting up a heat map is very intuitive. What I've done here is just select the properties that I'm interested in from the list at left, and then clicked Add to place them in the table to the right. If we wish to do so, we can adjust the color ramp settings by right-clicking on the color swatches. It's possible to turn all heat ramps off using the Show Heat Maps toggle in the upper left-hand corner. Individual properties each have a display toggle in the table at right. After you hide a heat map, you can always toggle it back on again as long as it remains in the table. To apply the heat map and close the window, just click OK. And here you can see what a heat map looks like. It's very easy to see whether a property for a given compound lies at one extreme or another based on the cell coloring in the table. One thing to remember is that it's possible to save heat maps as part of a custom view. This allows you to recall previously configured heat maps just by opening a saved view. Statistics are good for getting an idea of what your descriptors look like on their own and with respect to one another. To calculate statistics, we head up to the Data menu and choose Statistics. Calculating any of the statistics at left is very easy. Just select the desired statistic in the list, click Compute, and the results will appear in the window at right. You can also export the statistics to a CSV file. Charts are a very nice way of visually representing how properties are distributed across compounds and how properties vary with respect to one another. Canvas allows you to create a few different types of charts: scatter plots, histograms, and pie charts. To begin, we'll head up to the Chart menu and choose to create a new scatter plot. By default, the plot will already be created for you, with the table's first and second properties on the X and Y axis respectively. Using the X-axis and Y-axis drop-down menus, you can change the properties that are used to create the plot. These plots are actually interactive. Clicking and dragging to select points in the plot will select the corresponding rows in the view that you use to create the plot. You can also hover your mouse pointer over any of the points to reveal the 2D structure of the corresponding compound. If you wish to visualize additional properties in the same plot, the Settings menu allows you to specify additional variables that are used to determine the size and color of individual plot points. You can also use the Settings menu to change axis settings, the background color, and more. It's similarly possible to create a pie chart or histogram. After using the Chart menu to create a new histogram, you'll get something that looks a bit like this. It's automatically populated using the first property in the table, and it's interactive with the workspace. You can click on a bin in the histogram to select all of the corresponding compounds back in the table. You can choose a different property to use for the histogram using the Property drop-down menu, and the settings for layout, number of bins, coloring, and so on can all be found under the Settings menu. Alright, so now what I'd like to do is to go ahead and take a look at heat maps, statistics, and charts within a live demonstration. If you feel like you've already got a pretty good handle on these things from the preceding portion of the video, you can go ahead and skip this part. But for now, I'll go ahead and get started by heading up to the Data menu and choosing Heat Map. And I'm going to do a fairly simple heat map. Just for one property, I'll choose MW for molecular weight from the property list, and I'll click the Add button to add molecular weight over here to this table that contains properties for which we'll be creating a heat map. Now we can change the colors for min and max if we like, simply by right-clicking on the little color blocks there, but in this case I'm going to go ahead and click Apply to apply the heat map with default settings to that property that we're interested in. So there we go. You can see that I've clicked apply and the heat map now appears in the table. I'll just move this out of the way so we can get a little bit better view. Now, just to kind of drive things home, I'm going to go ahead and click on OK to accept things, and I'll sort the table according to molecular weight. And here at the very top of the table, you can see that the colors are light blue, and the color gradient just kind of proceeds fairly smoothly as we scroll down the table and get to the higher molecular weight compounds. So I'm going to go ahead and under the View menu, I'm going to undo all view changes to undo that sorting operation, and under the Data menu, I'll go ahead and choose Heat Map and choose to turn off the heat map by clicking on the display toggle for that property and choosing to apply that change. I could have also turned off the heat map by turning off this toggle in the upper left-hand corner of the window as well. So I'll click on OK to exit this window, and the next thing that I want to show you is how to calculate statistics using Canvas. To do that, I'll head up to the Data menu, and I'll choose the very last entry in the Data menu, Statistics. So you can see that there are two tabs for univariate and bivariate statistics. To get started, I'll do something very simple. I'll just calculate the mean for all of the properties that we have in the table, and you can see that mean is already highlighted, so I'll go ahead and click Compute, and that calculates the mean values for all of the properties in the table, including descriptors that we've predicted using Canvas, as well as activity values and any other structure-associated properties that you might have imported into Canvas. Now, of course, we can export these statistics to a CSV file by clicking on the Export button, and we can also calculate bivariate statistics very easily. You can see that there's a color ramp that's applied to correlation, which is already calculated here, and RMSD I'll calculate in a very similar manner just by choosing it from the list and clicking Compute. And again, we see that color ramp there. So I'll dismiss this interface by clicking on Cancel. The very last thing I'd like to show you is under the Chart menu, I'm going to choose New, Scatter Plot, and we're going to take a look at a scatter plot for the compounds in our table. So you can see that we've got the first and second properties in the table as the x and y axis respectively. So I want to reverse this actually. As the x-axis, I want to use molecular weight, and on the y-axis I'm going to change it to activity. These are PIC50 values here. And you can see now how PIC50 values vary with respect to molecular weight. Of course, if we just hover our mouse pointer over any of the compounds in the table, we get a little pop-up window that shows the compound that we're interested in. Another nice thing that we can do is to click and drag to select points in this table, and you can see that they're highlighted right there. And if I dismiss this scatter plot and head back into the table, you can see that there are a few compounds in the table which wind up being selected here. So a nice little trick that we can do, if we want to zoom in on just the selected compounds, we can head up to the View menu and choose Collapse to Selected. And this gives us only those compounds that we selected in that scatter plot. To take a look at all of the compounds in the table again, we just head up to the View menu and choose Undo All View Changes. Very simple.